So today's fun and excitement is the process of onboarding. And what we're going to do today is we're going to highlight the tools that are available to provide a streamlined, personalized onboarding for your team to make sure that people are getting the engagement they need, because there's been studies showing a massive increase in turnover during the new hire period. When somebody comes in and they're not getting the proper onboarding, or they're feeling a little left behind, they can't keep up, you're seeing a lot more turnover there. So we always talk about the tools that we have available in here, but today I'm going to actually walk you through some examples that I've set up so that you can see it in action, see a better idea of what we have. And in the previous webinar, and I know some of you attended that one, we talked about the pre-hire process. So that's something that's going to happen before your onboarding, where you can send out a number of pre-hire invitations to screen your applicants and see who's your best fit. So we're not going to go through that again today because we did cover that in the last one, but just keep in mind that it's all part of the same big picture, that same hour timeline. We are hiring somebody, onboarding someone, upskilling and retaining them. So what we're going to look at today is building a custom onboarding path. And I've set up a little bit of an example. It's a simple example just to give you an idea, but you guys know that you can expand on it and move it any way you want. One of the things about our system that's kind of neat is that it's very, very flexible. You can all implement it exactly how you want, tailored to your employees and what you're doing when you're bringing them on. And we are going to use an example today of a custom library for onboarding along with a custom goal. So the piece of the goals is something that we introduced a couple of years ago, focused on closing skill gaps. Okay, where we're going to take information that somebody needs to know and present it to them, let them assess themselves to see how much they already understand and what they don't, and get a nice list of what they need to follow up on to close those gaps. And they can see visually that progress. When a user first comes into the system, if they do not have any sort of assignment, they get this big old welcome screen. And as you can imagine, this is a little overwhelming. Okay, for a brand new user you've just hired, they may not even know where to start. So we have created a custom goal as an example, assigned it to a custom role, and I've given it to an employee so you can see the end result. But first, I'm going to walk you through how I got there. Okay. So from the organization menu, remember, only users who have administrative permissions are going to see this menu. From the organization menu, I created a custom onboarding course or library that would contain lessons that I would like my users to focus on. I've also created under learning paths a custom goal, not exactly the same content. All right. Your goal is going to be measurable objectives, things you want to make sure the person understood by having them answer a question correctly. Your library is a plethora of content that you want to share with the user, anything they may need, they may return to from time to time, like a resource. Okay. So in this learning path area, we have two areas. We have roles and we have goals. And the distinction between them is that a role is something you assign to a user, and it may contain one or multiple goals. So you want to think of a role a bit like a job title or an assignment. What will this person be doing? So I've created some sample roles, very generic, that we can look at. Designer 1, Designer 2, a field tech administrator. Each of these roles can be assigned to my employees as I'm adding them to the system. And what assigning a role to an employee does is it pre-selects their goals for them based on what I define here. So for my Designer 1, who I might be onboarding right now, this role is indicating that the user is going to need to complete the goal that I've designed, and I did create a custom goal for this, and you guys will have the ability to do that. The goal is called onboarding. So by assigning this role to the user, they're going to automatically have this goal selected, and they will not see that giant welcome screen, leaving them not sure where to go. So I did assign the role to a user so that we can see it in action, but first let's continue looking at how I built it. In the goal area, this is where I'm going to define what's inside this goal. What will this person need to understand? And remember that a role may contain multiple goals. You may have little bits and pieces that are standard for all your users, basic core concepts, introductions, things like that. And then you'll have specific goals to different trades, different functions that they're doing for their job. So they may all have the same common goal of getting started or onboarding, and then you'll add additional as time goes on. Now in the goal area, I have only one sample so far, onboarding for design. And if I select this goal, you can see in here under structure what I've put into it. Now, the structure of a goal is going to be medallions and badges, just like we have available on the homepage to the user when they're going through their goal. We're going to build it in the same format. So from here, we allow you to choose any of our existing goals to start from, and then you can take the content from those goals and move it right over here to your custom version. So I've created a very small goal with just a few things in it. It has one medallion. It has 3 badges in the medallion. They probably don't make a whole lot of sense really as an onboarding path, but I just needed a quick example. All right. So to create those custom goals, what you would do is you would look to the products that are involved. You would look to the other goals that are already existing. There they go. You would choose the goal you'd like to work with. So this is the most current aligned to certification with Autodesk, and this is what I use to get started. And within that goal, you're going to find probably way more than you need. You're going to grab just the medallions that you want somebody to focus on. Going to take a moment to load because it is rather large. So just like when you're creating a custom course for the library, when you're building a custom goal, you're going to see a list of all of our content that you can click and drag over into yours. So from here, if I wanted to add an additional medallion, I'm going to use these little arrows here. I don't quite have a name for this icon yet. I'm going to come up with one. It looks like elevator buttons. If you click that and drag, it will move the content. Now, as far as what changes you can make, you need to be able to have all of your badges organized into a medallion. We can't have a badge hanging out all on its own. So if we wanted to take a badge and add it, we just have to make sure that it's going to sit inside another medallion. It will be best if you take an entire medallion at a time. And I can go ahead and close these so you can get a pretty good idea visually. Those are each of the medallions for this goal. And inside each of these medallions is a series of badges. So you're probably going to grab an entire medallion. When you think about how those are split up, each one of those sections, maybe 2 or 3 of them, would highlight what someone needed to know. We do offer functionality to build your own medallions and badges as an add-on. That is something that you can contact me about after the fact if you want to have that enabled, if you don't already. It is something that we require training for first. So I will need to walk you through how to use it. It's not terribly difficult, especially if you're already familiar with the interface. But if you're brand new to this interface, you're definitely going to want to walk through because we have to start at the level of lessons and group them together in a badge and then group all those together in a medallion. So we'll do a little training on that. So that tool is not even open here. It's something that's an add-on. So I've created my goal indicating what I want this person to focus on when they first get started. Okay. I put that goal into a role saying anybody who has this role is going to need to at least start here. In my user menu, it'll take just a moment, bear with me. Any user that I want to add into that group for new hire, I'm going to select the user. I created a special group just for new hires. This is to make my life easy for reporting and restricting access to content. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that she is in that group. And down at the bottom, I picked the wrong Lydia. Down at the bottom, I'm going to assign a role. Let me back up one screen. I have 2 Lydias. I want this one. Come on, buddy. There we go. So you can see I assigned her the role of designer 1. That's going to be her job now that we've brought her on board. That's what we're going to onboard her to. Okay. From here, I have also created in the organization a custom library. So again, the difference between the library and the goal is that the goal is going to require that the user move through lessons and take an assessment to make progress. They must pass the assessment questions to earn progress. The library is just open content. So just like any of our libraries that we have available here, I've created a custom library here for onboarding. And I achieved this by creating a custom course and a custom category. So I've put together a category that my new hires can focus on while they're onboarding. And then once they're done with onboarding, we can open up the rest of the library for them. Okay. Again, it's not going to be exact lining up with the goal. I wouldn't expect it to be. It should be far more than you have in the goal. Okay, so I have a series of lessons organized into topics and, most importantly, some external resources, because when you're onboarding somebody new, they often need a quick orientation as to where do I find my resources. You don't want them to have to come to you for every single thing. You want to point out all the resources they have available and let them learn on their own to a certain degree. So internal links to your SharePoint are invaluable here. If you have documentation out there on internal standards, procedures, things custom to your company, drop in a link here that will point to that SharePoint site or individual page if you want. These links can go absolutely anywhere. Okay, so I put one in here that will open up CADLearning in another window. Terribly exciting. I'm sure you've seen it before. I also put one in here that points right to an overview video right on the Autodesk website. You can link to anything that has a URL, anything you think is helpful to that user. The only thing that you can't drop in here right now is a mapped network drive because that doesn't have a shareable URL. That's something you have to be connected directly to use. Okay. So your library, again, is going to sit out here and be ready as a resource anytime they need it. Your goal, they're going to access on the home page. Now, let me open up another window and let's log in as our new user so you can see exactly what that experience was that we just created. So we're going to come to users. I am asking a lot here. Here we go. And this is the email address. This is our sample user with a very invalid email, as you can see. Now, this will be the very first time this user has logged in, so they're asked, of course, to do the terms and service, and they're going to accept to clear that. It's thinking. Here we go. Come on, buddy. It's got to build a home page for me. Because it's the first time I've logged in, it's putting it all together. But look at how instead of that welcome screen, they're immediately brought to onboarding for design. They have their goal pre-selected. They know exactly where to start. Okay. And because this is a goal, they're going to work through each of these sections and assess their progress. And you're going to be able to keep an eye on it and see how far have they gotten. So imagine those first few days of onboarding, be able to say, I want you to do one of these each day, and I'll check on your progress. Okay. And then in the library, you can actually come in and restrict access to content so that they only have access to certain areas. So keep in mind that when you're bringing in somebody who's brand new, you may only give them access to that onboarding library until they're done onboarding. Then, when you feel comfortable, open up the whole library. Let them explore more. Okay? So now this user is seeing from the library only the pieces I want so that they don't get off the beaten path, they don't get overwhelmed and lost, they don't end up in the wrong section learning something they shouldn't. Okay. Now let's come back to that other window. When the time comes that I'd want to open this up and say, all right, Lynn, or Lydia, you've done a fantastic job with your onboarding, you've completed it, then I'm going to remove her from that group of new hire because she's no longer a new hire. That's going to open up the library for her and give her everything else so she can move forward. I may, depending on how the onboarding went, add additional goals at this time. So if we started with simply a core goal and now we're ready to move her on to the next, I might give her another goal. Now, where you're seeing her progress, when somebody has been assigned a goal, as an administrator, you're going to have a snapshot right on the home page when you log in. So from here, I'm seeing a quick snapshot of everybody's goal progress if I've assigned that goal to a user. And if I want to see additional details, I can come right in here to reports, and I can look at a couple of different reports: goal summary by employee, role by employee, employees assigned to goals, and employees assigned to roles. What's the difference? Did we assign it to them, or did they just pick it out of the box? So if I look here, this is everybody who has a role that was assigned to them. If I look at goal summary, there may be a number of people who just picked additional goals. People get eager about that and they add more goals in. You're probably just tracking the ones you assigned. Okay. Either way, I can come in and I can take a look at what we've assigned and what the progress is so far. Of course, I just logged in. She has no progress yet. Let's not judge her yet. I have one person assigned, 0 out of 3 so far. As she starts to make progress, it's going to fill in. You're going to want to know that. This is a new hire. This is an onboarding person, and you're going to want to keep your thumb on her activity in particular. So schedule a report delivery. For this report, you're going to be able to keep track of who is going through this particular process right now. And you can ask to see this weekly, monthly, even daily, depending on how closely you're monitoring them. So that's how you can keep an eye on their onboarding. Any questions so far? Okay. I don't really want that report. I'm going to hit cancel. So I looked at how to build that learning path for you, how to come in and how to create a role, and then for that role to define which goal the user needs to do. I also took a quick look at how to build a goal. The course that I put up in the library, this is something that I'm fairly sure you guys are all familiar with already. I think you've already seen this. But this is where you would build a custom course that's visible in the library. And you can add in optional tags for searching, a description for yourself so that you can keep track of what all these courses are, because eventually you will forget. You'll create 20, 30 courses. And then the structure of the course itself. So this is where I built that library. And I'm just going to take a quick look with you. Very similar interface to the goal. Where do I want my content from? And it shows you all possible libraries. Which version am I using? And which course would I like to copy from? And this will fetch me the full structure of the existing library so that I can drag and drop anything I want to add into my custom course. So anything that I want to make available to people going through that process. And you can drag an entire topic. If I wanted to add the entire 2D drawing basics topic, I can grab that title and drag it over. But a little tip, you don't want to let go until you see that blue line with that little blue arrow behind there. If I don't have that, it means it's not in the right area and it's just going to vanish. So that is telling you where it's going to be dropped. Do we want it beneath resource links? Do we want it inside? I don't want a topic inside a topic. That won't work. Do I want it beneath getting started, beneath next steps? Where would we like to see it? And then once you've brought it over, if you want to fine tune it, you certainly can. You can come through and delete any of these lessons that you don't need. And you can rearrange them using the elevator button. I'm sticking with that one. It worked for me. So click and drag to rearrange the lessons. And of course, remember to save your changes. Every time you make a change, you want to hit save. Now, to make this visible in the library, what did I do? I made sure under products, it was associated with the product I wanted it visible in. So I indicated here that it was part of the onboarding product. That's not an existing product for most of you. That's not something that you're going to see there. So how did I get that? How did I create a tile in the library that had my title in it? That is a category. So a category allows you to create custom tiles up here in your library, and you can create as many as you want to organize your custom content. When you create a category, you're going to need to give it a name, and that name will be displayed on the icon. A description, if you'd like, that will be displayed right on the library page. Keywords, if you want for searching. I've clearly put that in the wrong spot. Look at me. keywords. That was a sentence, not keywords. There. I'll save my changes. Now, in order to create and use a category in the library, all of our categories, when you view them, have a drop down for releases. When you go look at Revit or AutoCAD, BIM 360, they all have a drop down. Versions is what you use to create that drop down. What version of this category is it? And you do not have to name it 2023, 22, 21, whatever it may be. You can use whatever name you'd like. You still want to put in the year for whatever version this is for. Okay, you want to keep an idea of, was this training built from 22 or 23? You can have multiple, but then you can name them whatever you want. And you need to have at least one, but you can have multiple. All right. What this does, when I come into the library now, oh, I'm not going to be able to see it very well. Hold on. Let's first look at the course. When I'm looking at the course that I'm building and I'm adding it to products, if you choose our design onboarding, these are each of the versions. You get a drop down with each version. So you can choose which one should this be part of. And it can be multiple, but typically it's one. When the user comes out to the library and they look for that category that you've just created, they're going to see the drop down next to the name for each of the releases that you've created. From here, they can toggle between them and see the courses that are available. So you may end up with multiple versions available in each of these. You can get as detailed as you want here. Now, I put the same thing in both so the screen doesn't change. But if I had a second course, which I should create for onboarding level 2 designers, then that would be displayed here. So that is how I got my very own tile in the library for onboarding. And by creating it as a product, when I come to the organization menu and come down to content, this is where you have the ability to restrict access in the library to certain products for your users. So I can say from here, my new hire users, people in that group, should only see the following items in the library. Taking just a moment. The more I rush it, the slower it's going to go. There we go. So this shows you every single product there is, and the product that we've created for onboarding will be listed right in here for us to control. Okay, it's going to be under H because I called it Our Designer Onboarding. If I check this box and save, I am restricting access in the library to only that title. The user will see nothing else. They can't get to any of the other titles. You do want to be careful here. If I restrict access for somebody in this group to just that title, but then I give them a goal that's part of another title, that's a problem. They won't be able to access those goal lessons. So I need to be sure that I include all of the content they may need. And that goal that I created was in AutoCAD. I did say specifically that the content was AutoCAD related. Now the user would see two tiles in the library. They will see AutoCAD and they will see the onboarding.